Another day, another streaming setup. I am incredibly sad to report that I am no longer recording from an e-girl setup. I am now recording from an e-boy setup. I'm now on Nim's. Actually, I haven't even had the opportunity to kind of look around the background here. I'm now streaming from Nim's setup, recording, I suppose. And I appreciate the opportunity to not record these on my laptop while we're traveling across. I'm also going to try and make this video take as long as possible because when I finish recording today, I'm going to have to go upstairs and try some sort of Swedish traditional rotting fish thing on stream. Apparently it's a delicacy, but apparently it also smells so bad that you have to open it underwater. It's also illegal to open in public places, and it is like a crime to open it on a plane. And yet somehow it is something that is still edible, even though it feels like a weapon of mass terrorism and destruction. Speaking of weapons of destruction, we're talking about Copa America today, except we're not talking about the refereeing or anything else. We are talking about the knockouts and who is actually going to win them. Because if you were paying attention to the Euros, I made the similar prediction video for the knockout section, and I ended up getting 7 of the 8 picks right. The only one I got wrong, though, was Austria. I picked Austria to go all the way to the final, and so I was still, in spite of being almost entirely right, incredibly wrong. But we will endeavor to go a perfect 4 for 4 on the first round of Copa America. And I am somewhat relieved because the United States is not there. Now, I'm not relieved because Greg Berhalter has not been fired yet. But I am somewhat relieved in that I don't have to, pick the United States to go maybe further than I otherwise would pick them to go. Obviously, you're welcome to comment your predictions and see if you can best me, but good luck. This forehead isn't just for show. There's lots of storage space up there. Now, the first match, got it pulled up in front of me, Argentina, Ecuador. Right. This highlights, I think, something very stupid about Copa America when you look at this bracket in the first place, and that's that one half of the tournament stays on the same side the entire time, and the other half of the tournament stays on the same side the entire time, which means you have Group A and Group B, right, which get jumbled up with Argentina, Ecuador, Venezuela, and Canada, and then the winner of those 2 matches from Group A and Group B then play again before you ever see a team from Group C or Group D. It's beyond stupid. It doesn't make any sense. It's not the only stupid thing about Copa America. I feel like I'm feeling the urge to go on a rant about how Copa America is a washed competition. It's not just because the United States didn't make it out. Like everything about Copa America just seems like it's completely busted. It's just not a legitimate international competition. That being said, I was really disappointed with the way Ecuador played in the group stage. They finished convincingly behind Venezuela. They barely were able to battle their way to the knockouts at all by knocking out Mexico. Just completely unconvinced by the way Ecuador performed. And I think Argentina is going to basically have a guaranteed route to the final here. I mean, how could you look at this and think anything else? Argentina is going to beat Ecuador. I'm going to say they're going to beat Ecuador 3-1. I think it's going to be a comfortable win for Messi and the boys. I think they're going to have, they're just going to be carried on a winged chariot into the final of this tournament. That brings me to the second match of the first round, though, Venezuela and Canada. Every tournament needs one knockout match like this where it's just 2 teams that you feel like don't even belong there. But seriously, I talk a lot of trash about the Canadian national team. I talk a lot of trash about the Canadian national team fans. But I got to give it to them on this one. They outdid us. They outdid Mexico. Canada got out of a group ahead of Peru and Chile. That is, it's impressive. Over 1,000 minutes played by MLS players on the Canadian national team. So a sign that the MLS isn't necessary. Maybe the U.S., which played, MLS had 0 minutes on the U.S. national team and over 1,000 minutes on the Canadian national team. U.S. is going home, Canada through to the quarterfinal. Venezuela is a team I can't really figure out, right? Because they actually managed to win all 3 of their group stage matches, which is unbelievable. Venezuela is the only team from South America that's never made it to the World Cup, or South American qualifying, I should say. They are a team that is consistently not good. They are a team that, I managed them. We did that stream tournament where I invited a bunch of other football manager streamers, and we spun a wheel and each got a team in Copa America. Well, I got Venezuela. I got them to the quarterfinal, but I certainly didn't win all 3 group stage matches in the way there. It's a team that is playing on friendship and vibes. And if the Euros has taught us anything, friendship and vibes is a tough thing to overcome. Canada is at least a team that went to the last World Cup and showed some very good things at that World Cup. Now, granted, they got knocked out in the group stage, but they played some lively matches. They played some exciting matches. They probably should have beaten Belgium based off of the flow of that match at the World Cup. Right? It's a Canadian national team that won CONCACAF World Cup qualifying over that stretch as well. Of course, since then, it has gone bankrupt and started to become irrelevant again, at least when it comes to Nations League and Gold Cup sort of things. But they're clearly the best team in CONCACAF right now. The United States and Mexico didn't get out of their group, both of whom I believe had easier groups than Canada to get out of, and here is Canada. So how am I going to pick against Canada in this situation? I love maple syrup anyways. I wouldn't be surprised if Venezuela managed to pull this off. Right, but if we're actually breaking down who has the best player, who has the best forward, no offense to Rondon, right, but I'm going with Jonathan David. Alphonso Davies is without a doubt the best player in this match as well. And which team has more experience? Which team has a coach with more experience? Right, I'm going to go with Jesse Marsch in that situation. I'll take Canada. I'm going to take Canada 2-1, and I think what will probably be the most, if not a very entertaining match in this first round. I think Canada gets to the semifinal and plays unbelievably a Copa America semifinal against Argentina, which is beyond their wildest dreams. Of course, I'm going to pick Argentina in that match, but I haven't said that officially yet. Uruguay and Brazil is match day 3. Brazil shaky. Brazil finished second in their group. They finished behind Colombia with draws against Costa Rica and Colombia. Uruguay, of course, won the group that the United States was in by winning all 3 matches, beating the United States 1-0 on a goal that was definitely offside. I don't care if you bring up angles, it was offside. All right, I'm not having this conversation. The goal was offside. But Uruguay was better than the United States in that match. They were more likely to deserve the win. It's not like either team blew the other one away, but I would say, Uruguay deserved the win 60% of the time. The U.S. deserved the win 40% of the time if somebody was going to have to actually win the game. But Marcelo Bielsa is somebody that I find very, very hard to bet against in this situation because obviously Brazil is going to be coming in with more talent, right? Despite what all of the legends are saying, the Brazilian national team is still the Brazilian national team, right? They've still got a Ballon d'Or contender. They've still got the talent at all 3 levels of their team. They're still going to be able to match up man for man with any team in the world and believe they have a very good chance to win. And Uruguay is certainly not any team in the world, right? They do have Darwin Nunez. They've got Fede Valverde, who of course plays at a super high level. Manuel Ugarte, who I've always loved. He was a football manager wonder kid back in the day, and I don't forget my own. So this should be a good game. This should be a really good game. And I'm actually, with the extra boost to Bielsa as well, I'm going to say this goes all the way to penalties, right? Because Brazil just has the same thing France has, the same thing England has, where they're just misfiring. It just seems like scoring is not very easy. I mean, the only goal they got against Colombia was a world-class free kick from Rafinha. Like, they're just not cutting through teams, passing through teams, scoring goals easily, very similarly to a lot of the big teams in the Euros. And so I think we're going to end up in a penalty shootout. Granted, I think Brazil is going to win the penalty shootout. I think it'll be a 1-1 situation similar to the Brazil-Colombia match, but I think Brazil is going to get through, and that gives us Colombia-Panama. I just don't, I know that Panama beat the United States after that 18th minute red card, and we got Greg Berhalter really hard. Panama is just not that good, right? They are just not that. They're on an all-time high here, making it to the Copa America knockouts for the first time ever in Panamanian history. They are in the quarterfinal of Copa America. That's great. Colombia's got a lot of feel-good vibes. They just won a group with Brazil in it, right? We saw what Colombia did to the United States in a friendly before this tournament with a 5-1 win, in the way that Colombia was able to handle the other teams in the group with Brazil. Right, they did not mess around and play with their food with Costa Rica in the same way that Brazil did. Right, Colombia took care of its business. I expect Colombia to take care of its business again and pick up a convincing win over. I mean, this might be one of those sort of 4-0 wins. I think there is a world where Panama can keep this a 1-0, but without a red card or some crazy Copa America officiating stuff going on. Colombia is going to win this one by multiple goals going away. And that gives us Argentina and Canada and Colombia against Brazil in these semifinals. One in Charlotte and one in East Rutherford, New Jersey, which is the New York City Stadium. That's where Messi will be playing the semifinal against Canada, and that's where Messi's going to be winning the semifinal against. I mean, Argentina cannot lose a Copa America semifinal to Canada. Argentina is getting a layup. This is a tap-in for Argentina. We're looking at the World Cup champion, and legitimately the hardest team they're going to have to play to make the Copa America final is Ecuador. But you think England's route in the Euros is easy? This is a cakewalk. It is ridiculous what Argentina is. Argentina already beat Canada 2-0 in this tournament. And they struggled to get it up to that 2-0, right? And still were able to win going away, right? And so Argentina is going to have that sort of experience against Canada before in this tournament, already beaten by multiple goals. And this is just an opportunity you cannot waste. And I think it's a team with the ability and the experience to know that, an opportunity to go win another major international trophy, to just walk its way into the final to try and make that happen. And they're not going to waste it. Argentina is going to win this game, likely by multiple goals. I think Canada can keep it close for a while. Canada might even score an early goal here. It is one of those situations where maybe a penalty, maybe just a spectacular individual effort could wake Argentina up a bit. But then I think Argentina, over the course of the match, is able to break Canada down. I don't know if Canada's ready for this yet. This is already, if they are able to get through Venezuela as well, the greatest international tournament run Canada has ever had. Right, they won the Gold Cup in 2000, but the Gold Cup is not the most significant tournament out there, right? Particularly in 2000. Okay, and so this is the moment for the Canadian national team. I don't think they're going to be able to push it farther than that. And so often you see these kinds of magic runs in tournaments end in semifinals, whether it be a Morocco, whether it be South Korea back in 2002, whether it be, I think it was Turkey as well. Was that in the same tournament? But those sorts of teams that make those magic runs, they almost always end in the semifinal too, because the pressure starts to become truly absurd. Croatia being one of the really few exceptions, or like Greece of the '04 Euros, to be able to get past that stage. So Argentina is going to be in the final. Who are they playing? We've got Brazil and Colombia. We've got the stagnating giant that's just gutted its way into the semifinal against a Colombian team that has returned to form after missing the World Cup. A Colombian team that is clearly riding high. A Colombian team that has seemed borderline unbeatable. Now, if you break down the analytics of their previous match, right? Like, I'm going to pull it up. I know I just made a video about being anti-numbers, but like, if we look at the stats, right, for the previous match, the XG for Colombia is crazy, right? The possessions even, Colombia's more shots on target. Colombia was better. They were better in that game. And as a result, they are not going to be scared coming into a second game against Brazil. Sorry, a second game against Brazil in this tournament. Right? They're not going to be scared about that at all. The only thing that saved Brazil in that previous match was the fact that Rafinha banged in an absolutely unbelievable free kick. Right? Like that is the only thing that saved Brazil. So call me crazy. I'm going Colombia. I think Colombia wins this. I think it's a crowning achievement, and I think it tees up Argentina for maybe the easiest Copa America win of all time. Right? Because the toughest team they would play to win the whole tournament would be, granted, a red-hot Colombia team, which right now looks like the third best team in South America, right? But is also a team that missed the World Cup 2 years ago. I'm losing track of time here. But I think Colombia wins this game. I don't think the sputtering giant is actually going to be able to win. Now, on the Euro side, I do. I pick France to go on all the way. But Brazil's also not France, right? Brazil is a team that has struggled to get results more than France has, and doesn't have the same continuity that France has. And so even though France is sputtering, I still believe in that continuity and in that experience in getting farther in tournaments, where Brazil doesn't necessarily have that. I think there's going to be a lot of disappointment in Brazil with a loss in the semifinals, obviously, because they go into this tournament every single time expecting to win it. But I'm going Colombia. They were the better team the last time these two teams played. Both these teams played the United States. Colombia freaking won by 4. Brazil didn't win, okay? And we saw the United States get grouped by Panama. Okay, so Brazil is just not capable of seemingly pulling away at these teams. Now, there is a world where Brazil flips a switch, they're completely gone, and we set up a Super Classico final, which honestly is what I'd be rooting for. Argentina-Brazil as a final would be absolute spectacle, right? The legend of Lionel Messi against a newer generation of Brazilian talents trying to sculpt this tournament in their own image and win another umpteenth Copa America for Brazil. But instead, I believe we get Argentina and Colombia. And I think Argentina wins. I think Argentina wins, late goal, past 80th minute, 1-0. That's it. I don't think it's going to be an unbelievable, magical final. I think it's going to be one moment where Argentina is able to make the decisive play because Argentina is more talented and more comfortable in that particular moment, right? Because a final is completely different here for Colombia. But Colombia has had a really good tournament. They've got a layup of a first-round match. They're just going to have to handle Brazil. And I've got Brazil getting through Uruguay in penalties in the first place. But that's my pick. Argentina is going to win the tournament. And unfortunately, I don't think we're going to get the Super Classico final because that would be freaking awesome. It doesn't have a camera thing, so I just have to go click a button. How ridiculous.